From studios at the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, this is Fourth and State. In this edition, a chat with the chief of AARP about Social Security, Medicare, and a new project to encourage a civil discussion about fixing those programs. I'm David Haynes. I'm the editorial page editor of the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, and I'm joined today by Robert Romasco. Robert is the president of AARP's national office. Robert, welcome.
Great to be here.
So you just told me something that I didn't know. Not only is your position a volunteer position, you're unpaid.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct.
So you took one step back, or how did this happen?
Well, I was fortunate. I joined the board.
I'm joking, by the way. It's a great organization.
And the board of directors serves as the board of directors of the organization. Mm-hmm. There are 22 of us, and we're all volunteers. And we have a 6-year term limit, so we serve for 6 years, and then every 2 years a third of the board is replaced. And one of the roles that the board has is to select a president, which in our bylaws says that person's role is the National Chief Volunteer Spokesperson. So I was fortunate enough to raise my hand, and no one else in the room seemed interested, so no, but seriously.
So here we are. So
yeah.
AARP has a new project which is especially timely for us here in Wisconsin with Paul Ryan's selection to be on the ticket for the Republican nomination for vice president. He has articulated one plan for Medicare that has gotten a lot of attention. AARP over the past few months, and especially now, is gathering information and disseminating information around the country. Why don't you explain the program, what it's called, what you're trying to do?
Sure. Last year, the emergence of Social Security and Medicare as significant programs that had significant financial challenges became part of the Washington conversation. Unfortunately, this was held in Washington behind closed doors. It was part of a budget conversation. And we felt very strongly, even though no action was taken, that conversation needed to be brought up into the sunlight so that people could participate in that conversation. These two programs, Social Security and Medicare, are the linchpins of what we try to do at AARP, is help everyone age with dignity and purpose. They're fundamental, they're widespread, they're programs that we as a nation in the late 30s and the mid 60s said, this is important, we want to fund these and go forward, but they have challenges. So how do we involve people in that challenge? How do we inform them? And we've conducted since March an initiative called You've Earned a Say. And basically it says the people who have paid into these programs all their lives, who are recipients of these paid and earned benefits, ought to be involved in whatever solutions, whatever proposals, whatever conversation, and bring that out from Washington.
And what have you done to facilitate that conversation?
What we've done is we've done a series of things. First of all, we've used every tool we know in terms of survey questions, teletown halls, speaking to media outlets like yourself, and trying to invite people to both ask them to participate and fill out questionnaires. Over 2 million people have found the questionnaire on our website, earnedasay.org, or the AARP.org.
And you've got this really cool calculator there where you can fix Social Security.
And what we've done
is a neat idea.
We've asked people, are these programs important? 80 to 90% of every political stripe saying these are important. Do they think these changes? Do you think these programs need to have some changes? About 75% of the people say something has to be different in order for these challenges to be met.
Now, you've also gone out and solicited opinions from both sides of the political spectrum.
Right.
Why don't you explain how that's worked?
What we've done is said, okay, the next thing we want to do is the people we've talked to and the millions of people that have engaged in this said these programs are important. They need some changes. So we said, okay, here are the policy proposals that are floating around in Washington that have some legitimacy. I'm not commenting on whether they're good or bad, but people are actively discussing it. We said, let's get experts, people who are from all across the political spectrum, the Heritage Foundation, the Brookings Institute, to comment, write, and analyze, if you like this particular proposal, why is it a good idea? If you don't like it, why is it not so good idea? And we've put together 2 booklets. That in Social Security, we have 12 policy ideas. In Medicare, 15. And we've gotten the experts to write down in everyday language, not policy wonkies, but everyday language, what the consequences are, what this means, why it's a good idea, or why it's not a good idea. And we're making that available to people on the website, in teletown halls, in community-based meetings, in publicly written letters or whatever articles we can, so people can inform themselves, and at the same time have facilities on the website, earntosay.org, to literally transmit their opinion directly to their elected representative.
And is AARP taking a position on any of this at this point?
No. This is about getting generally recognized policy options on the table. These are not ours. These are.
So the idea is to inform the public
Right.
at this point, put out a bunch of ideas that are coming from both sides of the political spectrum.
Right.
Now, at some point, do you anticipate AARP taking a position?
Well, I think it's fair to say that there's been no major legislative initiative in this country on Social Security or Medicare that we have not taken a position on. So when a real-life piece of legislation starts to emerge, we'll analyze it at our board of directors. We'll take into account members' opinions and so forth, and our own analysis, and say, how does this work? Does it meet the needs? Does it provide an adequate benefit? Does it provide a guarantee on Medicare? Whatever the principles that we work on, and eventually we'll make a determination as to what it means.
Has Paul Ryan's selection on the Republican ticket had any impact on the debate? Has it at least brought more attention to these issues?
Well, it certainly has in the general media. I will tell you that one of the most important things that we found was that as we went across the country, again, we started this in March before Mr. Ryan was selected. There was intense interest among our members and people over 50, because these programs are vital to them. Regardless of the political spectrum, and our membership is over 35 million, and they're roughly half and half, with a good chunk in the middle. So they span that thing. But uniformly, these programs are very important to them, and they have a strong appetite for understanding what's going on. Prior to the Ryan selection, a national survey, which was a scientifically done survey, expressed the fact that neither political party was giving them enough information, in the 60% range. Now, obviously the conversation has been joined a little bit, particularly around the Medicare issue. Social Security has been sort of silent in the presidential election. But particularly, and our role is to bring information, fact-based information, and give our members and anybody who's interested a place to go to get what are the facts here, and they can make whatever determination they want.
When you were talking earlier, you said that you thought there was a good chance that these issues would get addressed soon, maybe after the election, maybe not till next year. What do you base that on?
I guess we're a cautious organization, and we think that these are so important. These programs are so important. They are entwined in our national financial challenge, particularly in the government sense, that it's almost impossible to deal with our budget challenges without dealing with these programs in one way, shape, or form. Social Security, as most people know, the facts are the program is fully funded for another 20 years. If nothing's done, the benefit drops to 75%. Better now to address that and make whatever adjustments, and we won't comment on which ones make the most sense, but whatever adjustments to close that gap. The sooner we deal with it, the less painful they will be, whichever side of the aisle. Medicare is a much more
it's more complicated.
Much more complicated. The outcomes of any individual thing are not precisely known. As you pointed out, you can go to our website, earntosay.org, and see on Social Security actual finite, actuarial, calculated. Here's the gap, and here's the menu. You can pick 2 from column A and 1 from column B, and that'll close the gap. They could be revenue, they could be benefits, they could be a combation, whatever. So
Medicare much harder to do.
Much harder to do because there's, experts are have some predictions about what they are, and others are just, this is kind of a, this is a new frontier in terms of, how do we make changes in the underlying medical system, and how do we make changes in the Medicare program, and how do they work, and will they really change the cost structure and so forth?
To what extent do you think the election in November will play in whether we get a decision or get the Congress to address the issue sooner rather than later?
Again, the conventional wisdom is the budget challenge, both in terms of fiscal challenge, in terms of budget deficit and so forth, are so significant that it's almost impossible to deal with those and not deal with the medium-term challenges of Medicare, Medicaid, in that portion of the budget. That's not the only issue, but it's it's not a small
But
item.
it's a pretty big one.
It's a pretty big one. So
Yeah.
if
Okay.
you're committed, to somehow addressing it, it's almost impossible to address it without, engaging on this issue in some form or another. So that leads us to think that they will get more specific and there'll be a much more robust conversation on that whole spectrum, but it will include these. And we believe an engaged, informed electorate should be part of that conversation.
So Rob, one last question. How did you get involved in AARP?
It's a very long story.
Give me the 1 minute
The
version.
1 minute version is I knew someone who thought I was appropriate. I was invited to apply for the board. It's an open call. I did fill out the application on the literally 15 minutes till midnight. 2 weeks later, I was in a very serious accident, which caused me to rethink about how I was going to spend the next few years of my life. I was fortunate enough to be selected for the board, and I said, being part of this board for the next few years is far more important than selling $100,000 worth of costume jewelry on QVC, which is where I worked at the time. So that's the very short version of it.
Well, all right. Thanks so much for being with us. Rob Romasco, who is the National President for AARP, thanks for being here on 4th and State.
Thank you.